Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dark Rhino Security Confidential. I'm Manoj Tandon, your host, and today we are honored to have Ilya Bodner join us. Ilya has changed the way people buy, sell, and think about commercial insurance. He is a startup enthusiast and an insurance tech pioneer. He's the founder and CEO of Bold Penguin, a rapidly growing tech company based in Columbus, Ohio. Ilya's career started on the front lines as an agent, and he has been on a mission to upgrade the industry through one successful startup after another. Recent recognitions include Executive of the Year by BizTech and Best in Biz, People's Choice Innovation Leader of the Year by the Insurance Innovation Awards, and Columbus Business First 40 Under 40 Class of 2019. Thank you for joining us, Ilya.
Thank you for having me on this. Really fun to be doing this from my room that I call my office, knowing that we're not too far apart here in Columbus, Ohio today.
Yeah. And to our listeners, full disclosure, Bold Penguin, Ilya's company, is also a client of Dark Rhino Security. So just keep that in the back of your mind so we let everybody know. So, Ilya, there's so many questions, and I know we have such limited time. But I guess a couple things that I'd love to understand from you is you started life in Russia. So starting from Russia to the CEO of Bold Penguin, give us a little background on that journey.
Sure.
How did it come to be?
Sure. Yep. I definitely will give you an abridged version because it's a long and complicated story. But to say it in a few sentences, so in 1993, we immigrated here from Uzbekistan, which was part of former Soviet Union. It's just easier to say Russia rather than all this. And I went to school here in Columbus, Ohio. We came with very little as a family, but America is the land of opportunity. And it's been amazing to go from what I call rags to riches. And not necessarily monetarily, but just quality of life and all that comes along with it. So, like I said, moved here in '93, got into insurance. Um, Everyone had a job. We had a job. I realized I went to the Ohio State University too, which I think the part was very important at that time. Um,
Yes.
to pay through college, a lot of what I did was run a food truck outside of the football games. A little known fact about me, but we sold Euro meat, street meat, and you can't believe the kind of money you could make on one game. In fact, doing it for 6 games was enough to pay for a whole year's worth of tuition. And those were the a couple of
You got
years.
to be kidding me.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what people pay for hot dogs, especially after the games. And so I've never been to a football game, but that's a side story. I figured out that um, you know I really wanted to live the American dream. I really wanted to become something and have my own business. And a lot of the male figures around me had their own businesses. One of my uncles had a cab company and drove cabs. My dad had a sewing machine, then upgraded that to a company. So it was just kind of a thing that I wanted to do. And so knowing that I got into insurance and that was my destination, I started dabbling with the tech side of it. And one thing led to another, started companies, met a co-founder, which I'm sure we'll talk about in greater detail, but had a couple of what I call home runs that allowed me to build self-confidence to do what I always wanted to do. And this is the land that you could be whatever you want to be. And so it's been amazing to have the encouragement of a small town like Columbus. We joke about how you're always 3 coffees away from just about anyone you want to meet. A great education, great background,
Right.
and certainly the space to figure it all out. And like I said, that's just the shorter version of that story. There's a lot in between.
Yeah. I mean, there's several points that we could go down there. And one of them you mentioned a co-founder. Who did you meet up with, and how did that evolve your journey?
Sure. So Bull Penguin has a couple of folks that are co-founders because we brought a few smaller startups together at one point. But the person I'm referencing in this particular example is Ben Clark, who's a co-founder of Bull Penguin. And he also is an Ohio State graduate. Columbus has a small entrepreneurial scene. It's actually growing, which is fantastic. And I don't know if your audience is all Central Ohio or not, but it's been really amazing to watch it evolve over the years. The time that I'm talking about is circa 2005. It's really tiny. And you sort of know the 50 to 100, 150 characters that are mixing around doing something. And Ben was one of them. I was one of them. And I'll never forget the caribou coffee that we both got, which is no longer there. We talked for a couple hours about
Yeah.
world domination plan and figured out that we could kind of jive together. Picking a co-founder, somebody that's in the foxhole, you're in the foxhole with for a while, is very difficult. And I encourage everyone to think twice, three times, four times about that. It's a lot of ways harder than marriage because you're doing so much together. And so, anyways, so yeah, he was an Ohio State graduate. Columbus has really blossomed since then, the startup scene, which has been fantastic to run. I'm sure there's still circles and cycles of people that know each other, and everyone's pretty homey. To get plugged into that. He and I came out of that, and we had a couple businesses together. And Bull Penguin is the one that we really hit our stride. We both knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and how to sometimes, a lot of times, finish each other's sentences.
Well, I'll tell you that I can personally empathize with that because at Dark Rhino we have two other co-founders, and a partnership, as you said, can be challenging, and in more ways than one, and it really requires a lot of give and take. And for us, I guess to make a great rock band, it's not the individual talents that count; it's how everybody synergizes together, and that's the gist of it. And it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I spent a
we
lot of.
had our own trials and tribulations there.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I have one point to make on that, and we can go the direction of your interviews questions. Like what you said, it's not the individual talents, how the band comes together. I would say that anyone's listening and considering and thinking about, and it doesn't have to be like starting a company, but a partner in a project, a partner in a customer or a scope or an initiative or whatever. Um, if that other person or people, if you feel like they're elevating your game, then it's a good thing. If you're not feeling it after giving it an honest try and searching for it, then it's probably not the best partnership. And I'm sure you're feeling it too, where once you get together, you're each helping build each other up. And it's one of those 2 + 2 = 5 scenarios.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, I know in our case, we did have some mistrials with partnerships. And I chalk it up to lessons learned. And when you start a business, anyone that's listening out there, if you don't make any mistakes, I don't believe it. You you are going to make mistakes, and at various levels, including your partners at times. But the trick there is to know when it's a mistake and end it quickly and move on, right? And you know, I think I can't remember where I read this, but I there was a quote from you, and it goes to the effect of every business needs to have three legs to a stool. You need to have an idea, you need to have capital, and you need to have great people running it. Those are the three legs, and all three have to be about the same size. Now, in making that statement, Columbus comes to mind, especially in the time in which you started the company. It's not San Francisco. And we don't view Columbus as having the capital or the tech resources, the people, the monies to create that environment. Yet you have been highly successful, and to a large degree, along with several other entrepreneurs, have put Columbus on the map when it comes to startups. Why did you stick to Columbus? Why not the West Coast?
Yeah, I think this is one of the only times when someone read back a quote about me. So I'm getting the chills just thinking how cool that is. Did I say all that? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah.
Apparently, or
I'm glad that you.
unless the journalist who wrote that article.
No, it's wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. Three legs to a stool is something I've been saying for a really long time, and I firmly believe it. You do need capital, people, an idea, and they all have to be just about the right size to make it work. Because if you have a good idea and bad people, or good idea and not enough capital, or all the capital in the world but just the wrong team executing on it, you're dead on arrival. And so, to your point, I think I heard a couple of questions in there, so I'll work backwards.
There are.
Yeah,
Please.
I'll work backwards from there. So, on the matter of capital, yeah, I mean, the truth is, especially in tech, there's only one game in town. And that's kind of sad that it's only one, but that's the truth. I've had to go to the coasts. Anyone that's been semi to very successful had to do the same. Hopefully, that'll change. Hopefully, with enough exits, there'll be enough movement around to change that. But it's one, and it's only one. Um, so that's what I had to do. Now, why I choose to come back to Columbus? A number of things, and some of that is personal, and a lot of that is business. What I said jokingly just a few minutes ago, where in Columbus, Ohio, you're 3 coffees away from anyone you want to
Yeah.
meet, that's very special. Very special. That's not the case in many other cities, big or small. I mean, you really can talk to just about anyone you set your mind to, and they're great people that are opening. And even if they don't have the time, they'll pass you on to someone that can. And that kind of mentorship, that kind of connections network, is really really special. So that's what kept me in Columbus. And there's so many companies here. It's successful
Oh yeah,
people. It's
we
fascinating.
just recently just put out a video on Columbus as a mecca for startups, and so it's come a long way. But it's the likes of you folks who have
Well,
done
it's
that.
always been the case. It's something in the water. If it's Wendy's from whenever that started and that became an empire, fast food, or limited brands and apparel, or a little bit of a tech burst that we're in, whatever it is, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Um, the other thing is, if you have to run around the country as a business, which many of us does, either literally or not so literally. Columbus is a great kind of semi-central place that's not that far from a lot of different things. You're a drive or a short flight away from anywhere. Um, well, a lot. Let's just put it that way. So that's neat. Cost of living, I talk to people that pay $50 a square foot in their crappy little office, some outside, under in Dumbo parts of New York,
Right.
where they can barely get to. Here, you can get a freaking castle built for you for 30, 40, 50 all in. It's quite a 9-day difference. Same thing goes for people, a good staff software engineer or any kind of position is a click lower here, and people are comfortable as opposed to somewhere else. Now, of course, we have a shortage of great people, just like any other good and growing city
Right.
has, and imports and implants are good for Columbus, but there's enough going around here. On the personal side, it's a great place for a family. I believe.
It is.
We have everything in Columbus. Sure, it's not as abundance as you would walk down Manhattan, but if you know what you want, it's here, and it's good for family, and it's convenience, and convenience matters a lot, especially when you're trying to work at growing a company. So those are kind of the high level reasons. I'm sure everyone's heard of this in some shape, way, or form, but it's worked really well for me. And again, I'm an immigrant. I don't have anything that's tying me to Columbus, or didn't. I've gotten to embrace the city and love it. So it works really well.
So, I'm personally in Pittsburgh, even though my company, we're based out of Dublin, Ohio, and I end up in Dublin quite often. But one of the things I've noticed here in Pittsburgh, we've had a lot of startups, but when it comes to VC funding, the VCs typically end up requiring those folks to move to Boston or over to the West Coast. You somehow avoided that. Is there any lessons learned in working with VCs that you could share with the rest of us?
Oh, sure. I actually have a couple of real examples of where unfortunately I had to pass on them or they had to pass on me because of that. Of that. Um, it's a little unique to Bull Penguin because we're an insurtech and our customers are big insurance companies. So anytime a VC
Okay.
tries to pull off with me that access to talent or whatever, I get to say, well, I'm literally a rock throw away from four, five, six of my biggest customers. There's literally a street downtown Columbus where you can walk on and hit two, three, four insurance companies one after another. That's very headquarters, by the way. That's very rare and unique. And so that's for us, B2B sales model, customer model, that being closer to your clients is an asset in my mind. The other part of that is I don't want to move because I do think I can hire people better here, and we have a value prop that is unique to the Midwest, where I think we can kind of get lost with the rest in other big cities, and I was very firm on that. And all the other reasons I just mentioned, where it's easy to get in and out of an airport when that was still a thing, if you remember that,
Yep.
and and quality of life and the kind of people you can get along the way. So,
So
so
go
yes,
ahead. I'm sorry.
I would say that if in a different industry or at a different stage in life or in a different quote unquote need for capital category that we were in, it probably makes sense for those folks to get a little closer to the VC so they can drive to you or knock on your door and get to know you a little bit better. In our particular case, there were so many pros that we made into pros that could be seen as cons that made a lot of sense for us.
Oh, and I'm bringing that up because I want the listeners to know that anyone who's contemplating starting a company or has a great idea, you don't necessarily have to move. We're seeing that like in Columbus, um,
You
outside
really
of
don't.
InsurTech.
Yeah, there's a convenience factor for sure to be a short drive away from the capital, and they're doing it because they want to get a little bit more comfort around their investment. So it's for all the right reasons, but it's certainly not a absolute must have 100% the case every single time.
Ilya, talk to me a little bit about how do you land your first customer? That seems to be every entrepreneur's first major hurdle they have to come up with. You have a great idea, start a company. Now you take it to market. You got to get that first paying customer. What are your thoughts on that? What was your experience?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually very relevant. I was just talking about this the other day. Once you figure out that the three legs of the stool, you have the capital, the people, the idea. And by the way, capital is relative. You don't need tens or hundreds of millions of dollars for every company you're starting. You could do with 50,000, 100,000. There's just different levels to a company at different stages and different industries. Um, so whatever that amount is and whatever that team is and whatever that idea is, you have to kind of line it all up. Once you figure that out and you think you have a decent shot at it, I believe that the most important thing that makes or breaks a company is their first customer. Now in B2B, of course, the first customer is could be quite literally one customer. And
Right.
direct to consumer, the first customer is likely a persona, right? The 26-year-old single female, whatever you're selling. So getting that right is important. So I'll just kind of bucket it like that. And getting that first client is not only hard and important, but also the most time consuming thing that will continue to be the most time consuming thing for any company. Because the first customer doesn't buy the product. Products never develop by the time the first customer is ready. The first customer is buying you or the idea of you.
Yep.
They're buying into you. If it's B2B again, they're trusting that you are going to do what you said you're going to do. And you have an early concept or an early idea or a V1 or an MVP or whatnot to iterate off of. If it's in direct to consumer, they're buying you that this whole idea that this product will be this coolest life-saving,
Right.
transformative, better than sliced bread kind of thing, and then you're going to take them into the promised land. And so selling yourself and packaging that story is quite tricky, and that's something you have to live with. It takes a lot of convincing, takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and it's something that doesn't go away either. So you have to do it um, knowing that you're going to live with the consequences for an extremely long amount of time. How do you do it? It's obviously different for
Yeah.
different businesses. In the story of Bold Penguin, we quite literally had to drive around and meet with over 300 potential customers just to get the story right. We wrote a little blog entry on that. And then when we were done with that, we had to camp out in a parking lot of a major corporation just to say hello to the what we thought on paper was the guy that was in charge of that department, and then the rest is history, so to speak. So you have to really go out of your way to sell the story and um, just look a person in the eye, make the promises, and live with them. And again, it's a little different with direct to consumer, but the same idea. A lot of hard work.
We would, I would personally, and I think we, all of us at Dark Rhino, would echo those same thoughts. It's a very difficult thing, and you have to knock on a lot of doors. And I would add, our CEO, Kevin, always says, you have to bet on the come, and that is, yeah, always believe in the future, and you have to have a strong faith in yourself in spite of what people may say or do. Stick to the plan,
Yep.
and eventually that passion will pay off. So I imagine that your first customers were not these stoic organizations like Nationwide or Motorists or Progressive. They were the smaller companies, or am I wrong in assuming that?
You're wrong on that, but that should be the case.
Okay, so
we had a lot of
I
we had a lot of what we call first customers that got us to buy different various parts of the product, but what we say our first big customer, the one that really shaped us, was a large institution, and it took a lot of careful work. So maybe that's another little. If you click in a little further, you don't just conquer Mount Everest, right? You got base camp, and you got camp one, camp two, camp three, foothills of the mountain. We did a lot of that prep work and getting to the different base camps before we were going to bringing on a major first customer. Did a lot of trial and errors. Maybe that was your point as well along the way. Um, yeah.
Oh, in our cases, looking for that. You're exactly right. You have to find someone that believes in you, and they're not buying the product; they are buying you. But um, we had to find that visionary, and in our case, it was a much smaller organization. But uh, we didn't start off at the very top of the food chain, if you will.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
uh, so with a name like Bold Penguin, I gotta ask this. I've always been curious. What's the origination of it?
Oh God, we don't have enough time for that. Not today.
Oh,
Uh,
it's just
yeah, but I'll give you a couple of little sound bites around it. It really is a fascinating story. Um, on a personal level, I just always wanted to name my company with some sort of an animal in it. Progress or Geico has their gecko, Nationwide has their eagle. There's just so many insurance companies that have some kind of an animal, and then I just felt like if we're going to be in insurance, we should do something and the like. Squishy little penguin, everyone likes, but gets a smile on their face, so that just made a lot of sense for us. Um, the other thing is, really wanted to stand out. There's a lot of tech companies that are just, you know, quite literal something techie or super nerdy and super cool and fun like that. And that just wasn't a style. We wanted to really stand out. I wanted to have the purple cow. I wanted to, have the name be said in a meeting and people are like, what? Is that real? What is that even a tech thing? And that's just the kind of the fun flavor we wanted to bring to the table. So this is all like in consideration. Um, one or two names, didn't want a funny misspelling. Um, Wanted to do something that could build a culture around too, that you can have a lot of fun with the puns, the play on words, and could just have a lot of a blast with it to shape the culture of the company. Now, of course, Penguin came up, but Penguin.com is ridiculously expensive. So
Okay.
GoDaddy search did help us with their recommendations, suggest it, and the rest is history, so to speak. But watching, penguins jump into the water from an iceberg or whatever in the video, we saw that the first one actually jumps in, is actually pushed in, and there's sea lions and they could eat them. And when we're watching the video, we're like, oh wow, that is one bull penguin to go in there. And so we're like, yeah, that kind of stuck. And the rest is history, as they say. And we have a lot of fun with it.
That
We have daily waddles, not daily huddles. We have state of the glacier. There's just a lot of things we can do.
you guys have capitalized on the name for sure, but it is a standout name, and and standouts. Speaking of which, um, you as a tech company, you picked insurance. I got to tell you, on the surface, insurance seems like a very boring area. Not very many people get interested about
Oh,
or
not
get
just on the
excited about
surface.
insurance. How was there something that happened with you that was a personal experience that got you excited about the insurance industry,
Sure,
or
sure.
uh,
Yeah, insurance isn't just
uh,
boring on the surface; it's boring all the way around. But that's what's great about it. Yeah, I was an insurance agent. I got to know firsthand how that experience is a little messy. I've had a couple other endeavors into working with insurance companies to understand that like a lot of it is really messed up and boring and actually backwards because people made it that way. Now some of it is regulatory and there's a lot of really good reasons, but a lot of it is just like mumbo jumbo piled on top of mumbo jumbo, and we wanted to fix that. And to me, there's a lot of charm into saying you're building the largest tech company no one's ever heard of, and so we wanted to do that in an industry where you could do that. And sometimes the boring, and sometimes the quiet, and sometimes the complicated are the ones that are just making all the money. And that is the case with insurance. And so we were naturally drawn to that. Now we work in small commercial insurance, which is, it's not like car insurance or home or whatever you see the advertisements on mostly. We help small businesses, and we don't even help them directly. We help the agents and the insurance companies have that experience be digital and not pen and paper. So there's just naturally got drawn to it because it's like, wait, I thought the adults had it all figured out by now.
yeah.
Why doesn't what do you mean it doesn't work like that? That's kind of weird. Why not? And so you kind of we pulled that string, and we landed with building an exchange.
That's great. And for all of our audience, the caption I would put underneath that, Ilya was willing to go where other people were not. And, for those who are students of business, that is classic blue ocean strategy. So,
Yeah, and maybe go. Others may have gone, but I was probably one of the few foolish ones that kept going, where most are like, I'm turning around. This is just horrible.
oh, well, persistence is a real thing. How many entrepreneurs failed or stopped, I should say, and they didn't realize how close they were
Yep, yep,
to crossing the line, right?
yep.
I'm sure there's a field of it. Now, do you see? We have seen, at least on the cybersecurity side, a lot of insurance companies are investing heavily into developing their own portals and their own products. Do you foresee that becoming a challenger for Bold Penguin, or not so much so?
Well, everything is a threat, and the minute you think you're out by yourself conquering the world, you're probably the sucker that's drowning. So we obviously look at all those things as paying close attention to what's really going on. Um, the beauty of Bolt Penguin is we went from an idea to sort of working to really working to now being implemented at every major insurance company across the country. So for us, we're operating from a position of strength, and we just have to keep iterating, keep growing, keep taking care of our customers, keep evolving, etc. and there's enough inertia and a lot of amazing people that push things over the line. So we're in a unique spot to where we get to still act like a startup, but understand that if we just continue down the path that we've started, we will be successful. Now that doesn't mean that something doesn't come out of left field and eat us. And so we're definitely looking at what's out there, who's doing it, how they're doing it, how close are they doing it to us? Is this something that's on the edges or right in the middle? Particularly in the cases of portals, that's an age-old classic problem. Everyone wants to build their own portal. Every insurance company, every software company, everyone wants them to be the storefront into something.
Right.
So there's nothing new here. We build our business around a partnership model. So we kind of come in behind the scenes and say, hey, that's great. Build your own storefronts, build your own gate UI, whatever. But you're going to have this one problem of this insurance connectivity. And this one problem seems on the surface like something you could throw some developers at and solve, but it's actually a lot more complicated than that. And so let me convince you why you should use our SDK rather than trying to build it on your own. That's kind of been our business.
That's very cool, and that is a, if you will, a unique business proposition. It's a
Right.
great value proposition. Um, unless the insurance carrier wants to get into that side of the house, and probably typically if you can get it off the shelf, it's usually a lot cheaper to do.
Cheaper and faster.
And it works. It's faster, and it works a lot better.
Yeah.
I know I have friends who are professors in computer science that will completely disagree with me, and I'm sure we're going to get comments that will say, but I don't agree with it. I just think buy it off the shelf. You're going to be better off.
Yeah, build, buy, or lease. Everyone always encounters that, and in some situations, one wins, and others it makes sense to do the other.
So let me switch a little bit, since we are a cybersecurity show. So I'd like to ask you a question, and some of these, do the best that you can with them. So do you believe cybersecurity is a business problem or an IT problem from where you sit?
Yeah, and for the record, I'm completely out of my league when I answer these questions.
I know.
I can answer them
That's perfectly
philosophically.
fine.
We have the one thing I should just say about Bull Penguin is we have a fantastic group of people who think about this all day long. And for a company our size, I'd say that's where we're probably the most mature and developed, is because it's an important topic and because insurance houses a lot of very sensitive data, and it's clear, you have a target on your back. And so if you want like the real answers, the more technical ones, you should talk to Frank.
I want the CEO's answer, because
Sure. So my version of that is it's a company problem. I don't know if it's the business model problem, but it's absolutely a company problem. Period. End of story. And people are being extremely reckless with it, and I mean extremely reckless with it. And it's kind of wild to watch because even me, who's not a pro in this, like I know how to poke around the internet and screw some things up. And if I know that with like little to no um, background in that, like I can only imagine what folks that spend 20 hours a day clicking around and doing a lot more than clicking around can do. And so to combat that, you don't just throw money at the problem. You don't just say, "Oh, IT, here's a budget, go figure it out." Um, that was probably a way to do it back in the day to have it like go away, but it keeps coming back. So now I don't even know what I'm saying. I guess I'm just worried and concerned about the recklessness.
You're answering two questions at the same time. It kind of became anticlimactic now, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary what's happening, and unfortunately, most companies are just unprepared and are being reckless about it. Not in an evil or bad way, or just skipping over this one for some reason.
So
and they think that bureaucracy helps. Like they think that a bunch of forms to check the boxes and put your vendors through solves it. It is just kind of fascinating. They're like, oh, we have an IT security check. the spreadsheet of 80 questions. What version of
Oh,
Microsoft do you use? It's like, what?
oh,
Are you kidding
oh.
me? So yeah.
You know what? I kid you not. You went right. Those were questions 11, 12, and 13 on my.
I've never seen this list, so that's funny. Yeah.
That no, you absolutely, because one of the thoughts was, what's your thoughts on cybersecurity and SMB? And you're absolutely right. I think people are being very reckless with it. I also think that companies, don't worry. Their business is not cybersecurity. Their business is doing whatever it is that they do to make revenue. And I think the market hasn't been addressed in a fashion that allows a small medium business to be a consumer of cybersecurity services. And that's been the thing that we've been trying to do, to make it a simple to use solution offering that provides a deep defense in-depth strategy and approach, and the client can then go on with their day and do what they want to do. But we haven't seen that be the typical case in our industry. That
Well, I also wish there was an easier way to do it as a small business, small mid-sized business. The problem is, like, no offense to you guys at Dark Rhino, but like, we literally have a person that knows and speaks your language and can figure out where you guys need to spend time on. Not every company has that. So it would be magical if like there was a button you press and everything else is figured out. But I know how unrealistic
Well,
that
stay
is.
tuned for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Stay tuned for that one. And the other thing with cyber insurance, and I was, we have not seen that cyber insurance truly get tied to effectivity of controls. We now see like Progressive putting out, if you plug this little gadget into your car and we watch your driving habits, we'll lower your premiums because we know you're a safe driver. We don't see a version of that with cyber and in the cyber insurance marketplace. Do you think there's a place for that, or is that just a totally crazy idea?
Um, maybe if we like peel back a little bit, maybe. The problem is like consumers aren't ready for that, so you probably have to figure out a way to educate it. Maybe. I mean, look, it's like insurance. Like no one wants to think about it. Like, how much does this cost? Does this cover me? Great. Like, can you please not bother me unless we need to talk about something? That's probably the attitude you should be coming from, that most people are already at. So I'm not sure exactly how to get through that. I haven't given enough thought.
Uh, it's something that we've been pushing. It's an idea that cyber insurance should work with companies and potentially providers of those controls to really look at how these risks factors come down, and that should correspond to something for either the carrier dropping their premiums or providing a more premium product, or because ultimately their payouts will be a lot lower if their clients are more secure. That's the thought anyways. So we're getting towards the end of this. How do you see the insurance sector evolving? What does your crystal ball say?
Well, yeah, I'm not the expert in that either. I'm just happen to arrive at a party that keeps on kicking. There's this relatively new, about 5 years now, term called insurtech. It's this convergence of insurance and technology. Something similar happened to fintech and banking, financial services, and technology. And so, the writing's on the wall. Insurance is going to be more digital. It's one of the areas that always is right next to your cable company. Customer satisfaction, very low down there. So technology is here and is helping. And so for a little while, we're going to be living in a world where everything's getting an upgrade and getting more and more digital. And that's going to continue. Insurance isn't going away. People in it isn't going away. It's definitely morphing to be more of a Amazon-like experience, but it's got a long way to go. And it's such a massive space, massive, that it's going to
Oh yeah.
it's going to be a while before something like fully transitions into the new.
And my last question to you is, what does a startup enthusiast do once you've had a successful launch of a company? and have achieved great success.
What does a startup enthusiast do? Was the question. I get to personally be in a unique opportunity right now. And I realize it's a unique opportunity and feel very special to have it and working on it where we get a second bite at the apple. We get to continue building Bull Penguin. And that's sort of part of the deal. Myself, my partner, the team that comes along with it is we are here to stay for a very long time. And this time around, we know what we're doing. So as we continue to grow, we're entering the second phase of what we're doing. I get to continue to work on upgrading Bull Penguin as we continue to double and triple in our growth itself. So I get to work on all the things that I wanted to work on. And this time around, I know a little bit more of what I'm looking for. So the day ranges from customers, staff, culture, finance, legal, you name it. Just focused on all the different aspects of the business so it's set up to continue to grow.
Fantastic. And before we let you go, we'd love for you to any plugs you want to get in. Do you have any appearances, books, any shows that may be going on? Anything that you would like to plug whatsoever and let our listeners know about?
Yeah, no books, no shows, no road shows of any sort. I'm stuck on working in this little room on Bull Penguin. We're going and growing. We're constantly hiring. So maybe the one plug I can give is anyone that is interested to learn more what we do or join a kick-ass team and a kick-ass product, give us a call. Some of the jobs that we're always very interested in are not on our website. As you would imagine, you would need to talk a little bit more in depth on that. But if you have some kind of a superpower or want to join a company that's really conquering a boring old space in a very fresh, fun way, please reach out to us so we can have a conversation about where we could use your superpowers.
Well, Ilya, thank you very much for that, and thank you for joining us. Hope you have a fantastic weekend.
Cool. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.